Hi everyone, it's a lovely sunny day here in the UK, end of February, still in lockdown. I'm going to do a little still life video with you today. Haven't done still life for a while actually, and haven't done a video for a while because I've been working on some commissions and things, so just needed to get them done. So I'm looking forward to doing the still life because still life you use fruits, vegetables, flowers, enables you to use all your brightest colours and have fun with colour. You don't have to tone everything down, which really suits my style of painting. I'll just show you a couple of things maybe. Hopefully you can see them in this quite strong light I've got here. So that's some fruit, and you could do peppers. Peppers are amazing, beautiful bright colours. Hopefully you can see them there. And so I'm going to get going now, and you can paint along with me if you like, because it's going to be a full tutorial video. So enjoy your painting, and we'll see you on the other side. This is the corner of my desk where I've set out my still life, and because I haven't got any of the normal fabrics or that I normally use as a base underneath the fruit, they're all up in my studio and that's in lockdown. So I've just got a little bright duster cloth to put underneath the fruit. You can use anything you like. It's just giving me a little bit of an idea of the colours and the tones that I want surrounding the fruit. So that's something you can do quite easily just on the side of your desk. And then I've got my palette, my terps and my canvas all ready there. I've just got to load up the paint onto the palette there. Got some brushes next to me, more brushes everywhere, and these are the two that I showed you, or the one that I showed you previous little still life paintings that I'd done before, where I'd used a much darker background cloth, and that always gives quite a nice dramatic effect for the fruit, shows the fruit off well and gives you nice tones to use in the foreground. And this pepper painting as well also had a nice little dark cloth behind it. So it's going to be quite a challenge doing a lighter background, but I think it's going to be quite nice sort of yellows and ochre tones. So we'll see how we get on there. Just a quick note on the materials before I start doing the demo here, is I'm using Zest, oil dilutant and brush cleaner. This is quite a nice one because it's very easy on your breathing. It doesn't affect your lungs or anything, so it's quite good. And then I'm using Liquin Original as a medium, which I've used for a long time. So the paints are all Georgian Daler Rowney paints. I've used them for a long time, and because you can get them in nice big tubes and they're not that expensive, I find it easier to work with, because you can work with a lot of paint and you don't feel like you're costing yourself an absolute fortune. So I prefer using them And right, so I'm going to begin. Got some terps in a jar here, so I'm just going to take the lid off there. Set my paints out already, which you can see there. I've put a lot of paint out because I prefer setting lots and lots of paint out. I hate having little tiny bits. I feel that very restricting, and this way you feel like you can really have fun. So I'm using one of these glazing brushes, just a 1-inch simple little brush, and I'm just going to I've put it in the terps. I'm going to put a big pool of terps in on the canvas here. So I'm going to put quite a bit of terps here, and I'm just going to start by using raw umber in this. Make a very, very terpsy wash, and then do yourself a nice wash of raw umber. I like raw umber because it's like a cool brown, and I've got burnt sienna there as well, so I might sort of add a little bit more to this as I go down, which warms the brown up a little bit. And the reason I'm doing that is, you know, things that are further away are cooler in colour and tone. Oh, not in tone. They're cooler in colour, and that makes them appear to be further away. So it's just one of those basic painting kind of rules. So I'm just putting a wash on. I'm just going to put this down for a second while I do the bottom here. Just like putting a watercolour wash on, but this is just called a colour beginning, and it's just putting a nice tone onto the canvas. I might actually put something underneath here so that it brings it up a bit on this side, and that'll help it run down. So it runs down, and you've got to leave it for about 5 minutes to settle, and then we can start doing our drawing into it. And I think I might even put it on my easel here. That might be easier. Put it on the easel, and it'll run down nicely on there. So we've done that little wash, and I'm just going to wipe this away from wipe this up on my palette. That's just the excess terps and colour. Just get rid of that bit. Wipe your brush, because you can use it for correcting your drawing. So let's wait for that to dry a little. So this is dried off for a little bit, so it's sort of touch dry. And now I'm going to I'm just going to get some raw umber to draw with that. I might even put a bit of raw sienna in there, so it's not such a dark brown that I'm using. So raw umber, burnt sienna, and I just want to get these shapes in. The beauty of drawing onto this surface now is that you can wipe it off with your brush and remove things around. So if you want your lemon to be more or less there, and an apple there, orange. I'm just putting little points down just so that I can see how they're fitting in. I've just got a little thin, just a tiny little hog hair brush, an oil painting brush, just to get the basic shapes in. And also, you know, you're doing a still life. I would say, you know, many would probably shout me down, is that you've got your fruit over there, you've got your drawing, your painting. You don't have to draw or paint these objects exactly the same size that they are over there. It's a painting. It has, you need to exercise artistic license. So if a lemon is too small, you want to make it bigger, or if an apple is too big and you want to make it smaller, then, you know, it's all about your painting and how you see it and what you want it to look like. It does not matter at all. You are basically painting what you see, but you don't have to stick to the rules that everything has to be exactly the same as what it is. I mean, you need to stick to those rules when you're doing a portrait, where you're trying to get all the features in the right place. Obviously, that's important. Now, looking at this, I think I might make them a little bit bigger. This is a bit empty here. So I'm going to leave the base at about there. I'm just going to increase the size of this lemon. And also add in, very rough, it's all very rough at this stage, it's just a basic drawing. I'm going to add in the shadow of the lemon. I'm going to move the apple up a bit, make it a bit bigger. Make that green apple bigger, move this up, and also make this orange don't want it to go much higher than that. Slightly lower. So that feels better. Now I'm going to add in these shadows. The shadows join everything up because they're sort of coming out the top there. The light's coming from this side, casting a shadow out the back of the fruit, like the apples going, shadows going out there. Fading off there. That's starting to feel a bit better, and the reason I talked about this one earlier is this is the one we used to put the wash on. If you just dampen that a little bit, you can let's get a piece of tissue here, blot that off. You can just rub out the lines with this. To get rid of some of the lines that you don't want. So this is a nice way of drawing onto the canvas, because you can carry on changing this drawing for as long as you want to. Don't want that bit at the bottom. And you just want that inside line down a bit. You want this lemon slightly higher. It's almost like pushing the paint. You can almost push the paint around with this. But because you've got a real terpsy background here, and you're painting on with just plain paint with no terps in it, you can take a nice brush like this and just clean up your drawing until you've got it looking the way you want it to look. And that's pretty easy, you know. It lends itself to lots of redrawing and lots of repositioning and lots of playing around with your objects until you've got them where you want them to be. So I think that looks okay, pretty okay for this stage. And what I might do at the moment is, the next stage I get into, I'm using a number 4 flat, long flat brush. You can get all sorts of makes, doesn't have to be any one or the other, but it's a hog hair brush, oil painting brush. And what I'm going to do right now is take some more of this colour, this raw umber here, and start doing the scumble stage, and that is, I'm going to start the scumble by blocking in the shadows. So I'm just going to put some of the very darkest dark right underneath the fruit where it's sitting on the cloth, on the table. So this is scumble stage, blocking in, and I'm just putting some of the darkest darks in. Just going to go slightly lighter, as I've done the drawing with the raw raw sienna mixed in with the raw umber. I'm just going to put some of that into the shadow. Everywhere you painting, try and change your colours up. Don't put the same colour in. Don't just use the dark brown over the whole shadow, because as the shadow goes further and further away, it gets softer and softer, and the edges blur into the surrounding tones. So you don't want a hard dark brown mass there. So I'm just using, as I said, the raw sienna, which is quite a lovely warm colour, to put into the shadow. Try and put your paint down in a fresh, seems to be getting cooler and cooler as it goes to the back here. I'll just put some yellow umber into this shadow. Soften the outside edges of the shadow. Don't want hard lines anyway. And that's something that I've noticed in some of my previous still life images. I think I had too many hard edges, not enough softened edges, and I'd like to address that in this video as well, is the hard and soft edges, lost and found edges, which create, the more lost edges you have, the more atmosphere you end up with in the painting. So I'm just going to soften this right out into the background. There. This is the scumble stage, so it's just really blocking in colour, and there's no detail, it's just colour. I'm going to put some of this yellow ochre over here. I like painting over the edges. If I'm using a block canvas, I like painting edges at the same time. The colour in the background here does seem to be a bit greenish, and I'm just going to put in a little bit of yellow ochre and a tiny bit of the green onto this side. More blue and yellow ochre, touch of white, maybe a touch of raw umber just to tone that down a bit. going to put this colour into this corner here. So you've got a nice raw umbery, cerulean blue, bit of white in the colour at the top. I'm just going to put a bit around the top here. Get rid of that white canvas there. That way you don't have to mix this colour again. It's already there. Some of it is. Right. Now I'm going to leave the front area for a later stage. So that is the light area, and that can be done in nice bright choppy strokes. Can be done in this sort of way here, if you can see this, with nice clear strokes in the lights. Your shadows need to be quite light and transparent and flat, and you can put a lot more impasto, thicker paint, choppy paint in the light areas, and that brings that forward, and the shadows recede very nicely when they're quite quiet areas. So I think I'm going to start working on, because I've got the colour, because I've got these colours right here, I would use yellow ochre, raw sienna, these two colours, which are very similar. One's just darker than the other, but I'm going to use them in doing the scumble on the lemon, because that's the type of colour I would use. And that's, we're still working into the shadows, shadow colours only at this stage. Quite flat colour. Bleed some of this colour into the background here. We'll try and incorporate the background into the shadow of the object that you're painting. I like leaving the dark brown underneath, right at this point where it meets the table or the cloth. But in some of these shadows, they are the same tone, the same value as the shadows. So you want them to blend in a bit, the two together. You don't want to have any hard edges there. And likewise with I'm going to do the orange colour next, because it's similar to this. So I'm not taking these colours off my brush, I'm just introducing some burnt sienna into this mix. I'm sort of mixing that into the colour that was there already, and in that way you keep the painting quite tonal, because you're moving from one tone of colour to the next, but always with a little bit of the previous colour mixed in with it. So I've got a little bit of the yellow ochre and the raw sienna all mixed into this burnt sienna colour, and I want that colour in here on the shadow of the orange. Paint it in nicely, don't rush it. Put it down. Your shadows are often the things that the people struggle with. They get a, they have a fright because they look at the colour and they think, oh no, that's too bright or too dark or too this or too that. Just put the colour down, and once you've put other colours around it, it starts falling into place like a puzzle. So don't be scared of that colour. Just going to mute this colour down a bit as we come down here. There's always some reflected light, and I also want to soften this edge into the scumble there, particularly at around that point. Soften that edge into the shadow. So I've got some shadow colour around that side. Soften this a bit maybe. Take some of the colour into the background. So it's like a lost edge and a lost edge there. And then we're going to go into our green apple over there, which is here. Put the shadow, go back to the green colour, put some more cerulean blue. I actually put some viridian green onto my palette. I wasn't sure about this shadow colour here. I think viridian's such a strong colour. I'm not sure about it. I think I might just put some ultramarine blue into the shadow mix that we've got here. So I've got all sorts of colours now on this brush from the previous tones, and added ultramarine into there, and I'm going to put some of that down. See what that looks like. Quite nice and dark. The shadows are quite dark over there. I quite like that tone. I always find viridian green quite scary because it's so much like, I always think it should only be used for the sea, in sea paintings, water paintings. It's a terribly strong green. But I quite like this. Is more muted. And I'm going to do the same on this side. Bring that down a bit. Same in this corner here. I'm going to try and get it to merge a bit with this background here. Green in where the stalk is. There's a indent in the apple there, and there's also a shadow of the stalk falling across there. I know this looks a bit harsh, but bear with me. Yeah, I quite like that. So the tones, it's still quite tonal. There's no jarring colours. So we've got a scumble background and we've got shadows in the right colour range and the right tones for the various fruit. It's a lemon and an orange and an apple. And I'm going to put some of this, I like this green, it's very darker. Might be a mistake, might not. Just put it in there, leave it there and see what happens. Things are not, mistakes happen, but they're not, usually they're actually not mistakes, they work quite well. Right, now I want to get on with doing the lighter areas of the orange. I'm going to do the orange, then the apple, then the lemon. So I'm just taking a little touch of Liquin onto my brush just to very, very small amount, just to sort of loosen up the paint, because this is pretty much dry now. So I'm going to, and the surface of this canvas seems to be quite absorbent, so I'm just going to use some cadmium orange and mix a little bit of yellow ochre into it, just to tone it down a little bit. And so this is, I'm still in effect painting the scumble, so I'm still trying to cover the surface with some colour. So it's kind of, the way I'm going to do it now is kind of a mixture of a scumble and a direct painting, because what I would really like to achieve is to get the still life done all in one go, in the sort of alla prima sort of technique where you paint it up all in one session from beginning to end. So this is yellow, this is cadmium yellow with yellow ochre in it, tones it down a little bit. I want to still keep quite sort of muted colours down this area, and then try and keep my very brights into this area here. So I'm going to go a little bit, I might introduce a little bit of white into it. Just get a bit of white and put it over there. Just to take this back down. And also might put a bit of burnt sienna into this. It's really about mixing the colour that you see and putting it down where you see it, and trying not to merge all the colours that you put in. Try and put them down simply, and don't merge them and muddy them up by mixing them all together and blending them. So I'm going to I kind of jump around a little bit this way. I've got another colour here which I want to show you, which is like this orange that I've been using here is the Daler Rowney cadmium orange, but this one over here, that's the yellow. This particular one over here is an artist quality cadmium orange. So in this range, and probably you find in other ranges, the very good quality cadmium oranges have this. I'll just show you a little piece on my brush. Have this sort of color orange, which you don't get in the more sort of student ranges, and this orange is particularly good for painting oranges. It's almost like the perfect color. So I always have a little tube of that around, which I don't use some of my other painting because it's an expensive colour, and it's a beautiful colour, and you just can't mix it. You've got to have the tube. So let's get rid of that. I need a bit of yellow in here as well. Cadmium yellow, cadmium red and cadmium orange are two of the best colours in the artist ranges, and those are the three that I would normally buy. Spend that extra sort of money on. You see this colour here? Wow, that is like, let's put this on here, that's like a perfect orange colour. So I'm just putting it down in sort of putting my brush in here and there and making nice painterly strokes. If you want to darken the orange, put some of the other orange in, the cheaper one. And I might add a bit of red in here as well. Sometimes you get a bit of red in the you're just playing around, putting lots of strokes of different colour on. So in essence, when you're painting anything, I'll just go over that again, your dark areas, your shadow areas, you want to keep fairly clean and translucent and quiet. But when you get into your light areas, you can start putting colour on it down in this sort of way, nice painterly strokes, and you can use your palette knife as well to emphasize some of these little areas, because in the light area, that's where your eye is going to be drawn to. So your eye will be drawn to all the lights, so they do lend themselves to having some nice choppy, painterly brush strokes, and that is really nice. I'm not a fan of painting everything in too much detail. I spend my life trying to paint everything in as few strokes as possible, if you can understand that. So everything is every object is more abstracted into just brush strokes, and I'm particularly fond of that sort of look, and it's always what I'm striving to do. So, you know, I understand that some people love to paint all the little lumps and bumps and all the little details and the pores and everything. It's just not something that I personally want to achieve in my work. So I don't. Let's try and put some strokes going in. Try and keep your strokes going in different directions. Makes it look more interesting. And I also keep trying to lose some of my edges, and I haven't done very well with this because I've still got very defined edge around there, which is maybe something you want when you're doing your light areas. You want to have some soft soft edges and some very hard, crisp ones. But I think down here this area is going to go into the yellow cloth, so I'm going to already maybe lose some of that into the cloth down there as a preparation for that lost edge. So you know, the reason I like these very painterly strokes is because it's a painting. It's not a photograph of the orange, it's actually a painting of it. So the more strokes you can see, the more it looks painterly and interesting and inspiring and bright and fresh. And fresh really describes what I like my painting to look like. So I can see all the fresh brush strokes, and I can see I get inspired by seeing all the colours. So I really should put some burnt sienna over that area because that's very flat. I want to just do that quickly now while we're here on this. I'm just going to put some burnt sienna on with some liquid in it, so it's quite thin, and I almost want to put it on like a glaze. So I know it's not the right time for a glaze, but I don't like that very flat colour there, so I might even put some orange into it, which will make it more opaque. I'm just going to make it thinner, thin it down with the Liquin. That looks like a better orange colour, and then a bit of yellow ochre in there as well. It's going sort of from dark to more sort of a tawny orange down in this colour. And once again blend it into the background so we lose that edge a bit. You can always sharpen these edges up afterwards if you want to have more defined I just want to add a little bit more yellowy tones to the top because I think I've a little bit too bright orange. Seem to have lost that shadow colour there. And just a bit of yellow maybe. Yeah, seems to be a bit too pink there. I think that's gone too pink. Okay, I'm going to change brush and do the green. So I'm going to leave the orange on those, the orange and the sienna on those two brushes, and then go into the green here. Just want to wipe this paint off here. Just wipe the paint off. You can use those again. I prefer to wipe the colour of the brush in between, if it gets too much on the brush in between mixing, because I don't like putting my brush in the terps while I'm painting, because the terps gets into the bristles and it dilutes. It makes the paint too thin, dilutes it, and when you put your paint down and it's too thin, you get all these little streaky lines, and it's really not a good look at all. You can't get these nice solid strokes of colour. Right, we're going to do the green apple. So I generally make green with ultramarine blue and yellow ochre, or yes, I'm going to put some of that colour on. But ultramarine and yellow ochre makes a nice dark olive green, a cool olive green, and cerulean blue and yellow ochre, or cerulean blue and yellow, makes nice greens. So they all have their the areas where they work really well. Let's put some more in here. So we've got cerulean blue and yellow ochre. Lovely colour. Especially in the sort of shadowy colours, yeah. That's like a shadow over there. So I'm going to now start mixing a bit of yellow in to the cerulean blue, which gives a slightly brighter green. And we put that down here in this area. And I want it just underneath here. Put some green on each side of that stalk sitting out there. More yellow. More starts giving you a lovely lime. Lime green. We're painting a Granny Smith apple here, so it's quite bright. I seem to have little bits in my paint. I think it's from this yellow. I'm just going to remove this bit here because it's got a bit dry on that end. Let's just remove some of this yellow. I think that'll do. Try not to get paint all over me. Dip my finger in the strips, get this off. Okay. This is how paint spreads very, very quickly all over the place. I'm always trying to not to get too much paint everywhere. I'm not fond of getting paint all over myself. Right, sorry. Back to the greens, and I just want to use a bit of this colour because this is such a lovely bright I'm going to put some of this around the rim here, the rim of the opening for the stalk. But I've got another green which I want to put in as well. take it over the edge into the background. But I want to just show you this green as well. This is Windsor Newton Cadmium Green Pale. It is also a magnificent colour. If I can get the lid off. I'm just going to put a little bit in here as well. I love this colour. Aren't we artists strange beings? We get excited by colour. It's like the brightest bright green. I want some of it around this rim here. And I want some in this corner down here. A nice bright spot in the corner. Paint up over that edge we got there. Nice lost edge. And add a bit of white in. My brush. I want to go sort of quite a nice crisp edge around here. Soften that down a bit. And what I want to do is get another brush and just soften the shadow areas that I've got here. We take a bit of sap green and a bit of Liquin and just go over this, which seems to be a bit flat and dead in that area. So I'm just going to get a little bit of the stalk in, do it very, very roughly. It sort of shows, immediately shows what's going on there. So I'm going to put, I've used raw umber there for the stalk, and then a little bit of yellow ochre in and white maybe down this side that's got a highlight on it. Maybe just put a bit of a highlight on the top there. Maybe too much highlight. and the stalk is going into the center of apple, so it has to disappear into the dark of this well here. So make sure you sort of paint it right up to that dark edge, so it looks like it's going in. Just maybe tidy this edge up here a bit. Right, we have the beginnings of it. I might just do a few dark bits on this little bit in the center of the orange. Okay, let's not fiddle too much with that. So let's get on with the lemon. Now I need another brush. Maybe I can use this green one. This one's at the green paint I can use maybe. So far we've got just raw sienna, a raw sienna shadow in there. So I'm now going to start putting some yellow ochre in there, which is slightly lighter. It's the same kind of colour as raw sienna, but it's just slightly lighter. I like both colours, raw sienna and yellow ochre, although they're very similar. They have slightly different mixing qualities. Like I mentioned, using one or the other with the blues to make greens, they have different. If you just want a simple, if you just have a simple selection of colours, either one's good. So a lemon has a little bit of green in it. A little bit of this nice limey green. I wonder if that's green enough. Yeah, maybe. We want a bit of the limey yellow ochre green on the base area, in the connected to the shadow part, and you want to leave that top section there where the light is. You want to leave that for your very, very light, bright lemon yellow. So I was just looking at my palette thinking, oh, have I got lemon yellow? I have. More green here. See, most things, I think most beginners when they start painting, they think they can get away with painting everything one solid colour, which maybe in some cases you can, but it makes it more interesting when you paint lots of different versions of the colour, lots of different, might be similar values, but just change the tones of your colour as you go, lighten and lighten and lighten. So what am I doing now? I think I'm going to put some lemon yellow on. There's some lemon. Where am I going to put it? I seem to have run out of mixing area. Lemon is quite translucent, so it always needs a little bit of white in it when you use lemon yellow. And that's very, very much like a greeny colour. I quite like it. I'll put a blob over here. Let's add a bit of cadmium yellow to that. Go back to some of the greens. Go back to some of the cadmium colours. Some in here. I might even put a little bit of almost looks like some orange in here at this stage down here. And I'm going to go over the raw sienna again with a sort of thicker, with some liquid in it, because it also seems to have got very flat. Put a bit of burnt, bit of raw umber in here just to darken it a little bit. Now the yellow, that's sort of all working together. Now I want a little bit of this yellow to bleed out, maybe at about this point. I keep picking up the orange here. Maybe this point here. I want to bleed that out into the background, into this yellow cloth underneath. And I want to keep that very dark under there, so I might just go over that again. This nice dark. Where the fruit actually sits on the mat, you need to have a nice little darkness there. And you can always soften that again at a later stage. So I think this also needs a bit of yellow here. Right, spot of yellow right here. And here. Okay, so now I'm going to also put a bright spot of yellow. Keep seeing more and more in the transition between the green and the orange. Nice little shapes happen. So I'm going to start painting the background around the front. And the lightest area is going to be sort of here. So I'm going to use some of the, put a bit of Liquin in some of these, because they're quite a bit thick. I'm going to put one or two. An orangey one up too. I've just grabbed this other little older palette to mix on, because I've got my painting right over my mixing area there, and I've run out of mixing area, so I'm going to, I might mix the stuff here. This is lemon yellow, this is white, yellow ochre, while I've got this very light colour on my brush, I might put a few strokes in here. This is just a series of brush strokes that I look at the colour and paint the colour, but on the whole I kind of make it up. I make up what colours I want in here. And just with very, very small shifts of colour. I might even put some really lighter colour in here. Right, I've got some nice, quite light areas down here. So I think I'm going to darken this a bit. I just need some raw umber over here as well. Particularly on this side here. Some more transition between there and there, yeah, between the very light area and the dark, slightly moving towards the darks, make the transition a bit. Softer. So, raw umber I've introduced into this, and with the orange. So I want to darken this area a little bit at the back, on the way towards the back. We'll put some in over here. This is quite a nice colour. I think I need some more liquid in here. It feels a bit dry. Now that looks just like raw sienna. It's a bit too... I think we need more yellow in there. This corner. I try and blend colours by putting another colour on top of two other colours, so it's not a blend of two but it's actually 3 colours. I think I might put a nice light colour in here, a yellow, and I might put a bit of yellow in here. I don't know, I just feel like doing it. Let's put some of this colour just above the lemon. It's quite dark in there actually. Put some lemon and some yellow in this next. Where's my brush? It's a dark one. Just soften this bit. Although I quite liked that, I'm not sure why I'm softening it. Clean that edge up a little bit. Back to what I did here, because I think I ruined something that was going on here. Anyway, take my brush I had with green on it. Take this colour down the side of that hole like that. That looks, edge looks a bit funny there. Took a dry brush and clean that edge up a bit. So this is the shadow thrown by the green apple onto the yellow, and it seems to be quite dark greenish here. Put a bit of the yellow into that, going up there. Up into this background area, there's green in there. Let's put a bit of this green at the base here. And this colour I had behind here, I'm going to go over that again because that looks very I quite like that colour. I think I'm going to introduce a little warmth to it. Some burnt sienna and just add some in. I'll just darken the top area here a little bit. And this is quite a nice darkening. I want to put a little bit in here too. I don't like to fiddle too much with some of these areas because then they start to look a little bit too controlled. What colour shall I put in the corner here? I think I'm going to turn it down. It's a kind of a nice. Going over the strokes that I made a mistake there. I quite like that. It's not as dark as that corner. So the darks are sort of transitioning to sort of lighter. Because the light is shining in that direction, so maybe it should be lighter there. Transition between the two areas, yeah. There's one area there I think is a bit too, needs a bit of a pop of colour here. Quite like that. Now the shadows, I seem to have lost quite a lot of them. I quite like this. Warm this up, warm this colour with some raw sienna. This colour's a bit flat still here. I think I quite like what's going on there now. I'm just going to maybe I can use this one. That shadow under there I think is a bit, needs a little bit of So this shadow under here, I still like the very dark bit there, but I've tried to incorporate some of the shadow into other colours that are around it, and also up into the fruit. And the same with this lemon here. Try and mix it down into the, keep getting paint on me from the edge of this. Little bit of raw umber up into the lemon here. Soften this edge along here. That was working alright there, and the green. Softening down into this green that I put in there. I think that's sort of saying what I want to say about the shadows. So I think I'm going to leave this to dry and then come back to it later and put a glaze over it. Well, thanks for spending this time with me. I hope you enjoyed the painting. I have a website, janicelazarich.com, where you can find info and lots more paintings that you can have a look at, and I have a Facebook and an Instagram page. Details will be shown at the end of the video. I also have a YouTube channel and a Patreon account, so you can have a look at those details too at the end. I enjoyed this painting, it was fun, and look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye bye.